Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Alcini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Get ready for Talking Heads, the show where expert insights meet world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Brought to you by USA Global TV and Radio. Meet our distinguished presenters. From the great state of Texas, longevity expert, award-winning author, publisher, and distinguished Toastmaster, Red O'Laughlin. From London, England, soul heart awakener, novelist, vocal coach, and artist, Dr. Madeline Chan. Also from England, the Harley Street stress expert, therapist, ambassador for peace, and speaker, Carolyn Heward. And from Australia, ICF PCC credentialed coach, entrepreneur, and leadership coach, Mariska Dupria. Experience their expertise, connect with their wisdom, and transform your perspective. Watch Talking Heads on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. This video and its contents are the property of USA Global TV and Radio. All rights reserved. Terms and conditions apply. Visit usaglobaltv.com for more details.
Howdy, y'all. Red O'Laughlin here. This is one of my happy times during the week. It's the third show on Thursday, and I get a chance to talk to the audience about things that are important to me, but I think they're also extremely important to the audience. So let me get my slides lined up here and get those going. There we go. First one. We're talking about hallmarks of health. We started last week, part one, talked to a couple of them. I believe there's 12 that are listed as official hallmarks. And it's kind of hard sometimes because when you get a bunch of researchers together, here's 9 here. Well, here's 10. Well, maybe there's 12. They don't always agree. Most of the time, they're all pretty much concentrated on the same ones. But I'm taking the batch of 12 and going into some detail about what are they, how do they work, what inhibits them, what enhances them, and what can you do about it. So these presentations are for awareness and education, and we are live streamed on Amazon Fire, Zizzle TV, E360 TV, a couple different YouTube channels, Android TV, Apple TV, social media. I also have them on 2 of my own social media simulcasts on my Facebook and my business Facebook pages. And my contact information is there. LinkedIn. I'm probably on Facebook and LinkedIn, and it's starting to get to be on Instagram. But if you want to see me, I probably have some level of daily input on LinkedIn and Facebook. red.olaughlin.com, red like the color, R-E-D, O'Laughlin, O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N, red.olaughlin.com. And I have various books that I've written that are available on my website or on Amazon. In fact, quite a few different publishing houses. I'll let people information up there too. The YouTube channel is YouTube USA Global TV for live shows, for the archives, and I also have a section on my website for archive shows. I'm a researcher. I've never been in the medical pharmaceutical field. I love chemistry way back when. I got a degree in it, and then 4 additional degrees after that, all in different subjects. Got a bunch of professional certifications, 31 years in the Navy. My last job at Halliburton, I was responsible for cause and effect analysis, what caused something to fail. Why did that fail? Okay, fine. Why did that happen? Okay, well, why did that happen? And you go down 6, 7 levels of why did something happen to find a root cause. Well, nowadays I'm using that experience and knowledge to do the same thing here in the human body. Why did this happen? Okay. And so if I can look at the chemical reactions that are going on, well, this caused that, that caused that, that caused that. Well, can I stop any of those? Can I change them? Can I speed them up? Can I slow them? And that's what I look at. That's what I talk about. That's what I write about. And that's what I speak about today. I'm talking about health. I've been married 57 years, a couple kids, 3 grandkids, and 1 great-grandson. And my son and his family are coming in Saturday. One of my granddaughters is coming over. My great-grandson's coming down. So it should be a really nice family weekend. Best-selling author, independent publisher, about 50 books for other authors, distinguished Toastmaster, and again, informational, educational purposes on the USA Global TV and Radio Network.
Hi, Red.
Hi there.
Sorry to interrupt your show. Your audio is coming over very gravelly. I'm wondering if you could just change your mic.
Let me do that right now and see what I can do.
This is the world of live broadcasting, friends. So
Okay, I just changed it.
there you go. Bingo.
I changed it earlier before we went on, but
Now you sound great.
anyway, I'm glad you said that. I prefer to get the real lecture out of the way as opposed to the background information. Thank you very much, Dr. Jacqueline. Dr. Jacqueline's the owner of USA Global TV and Radio Network, and today she's my production engineer, and that's one of her jobs is to make sure we have good quality going out. Last year in 2024, I was the number 2 and number 6 TV host on the network, and for the first 6 months of 2025, I am the number 1 host. So moving right along. The Joy of Ageless Health goes into the cellular level at the body and various things. What causes disease? Again, I want joyful health. I want ageless health. I think there's a lot of good information there. Last week, we started the program. We had a couple of new topics on the hallmarks of health. And we talked about the causes, the risks, and the options. Talked about primarily spatial compartmentalization and maintenance of homeostasis. Unusual topic names, but again, in the world of researchers, you're using their terminology. Last week, we broke each one of those things down. What are they? What are the components of them? How do they work? How can we make them work for us better? Today, I'm planning on going into psychosocial adaptation, another topic called integrity of barriers, and I believe another one I slipped in there at the last moment, homeostatic resilience, and hope that we'll get all of those done today. I feel pretty certain we can. Psychosocial. We never really hear about psychosocial. We hear about psychological and some other ones, but psychosocial adaptation. And in the earlier hallmarks of health, almost everything dealt at the cellular level in the body, something was happening inside of us. And I think my wife is telling me the same thing, that she couldn't hear me. Yep, sound is strange. I was getting feedback not only from Dr. Jacqueline, but also from my wife. Thank you, Marilyn. I appreciate that feedback a lot too. And so we're looking at the psychological and social behaviors. We're looking at not only the whole person, the environment that we're in, but we're also looking internally because we still have cellular things that are affected by our environment. So we're looking at how do we adapt to the changes in our environment. And we're looking at various areas of integration, coping, resilience, well-being, social adjustment, dynamic process. Again, these are all terms that are used within the field of study, but we're going to be going into them, picking out what does that really mean. If you get a new wife, a new job, a new home, an injury, a retirement, they're all changes in your environment. All of a sudden, you are no longer in the same world you used to live in. You got new expenses, you got new limitations, you got new relationships. Lots of things happen. How well does your health adapt to those changes in the world that you live in? So within this world of psychosocial adaptation, I'm looking at both the whole body, how we mentally, physically, emotionally handle it, and also the cellular level in the body, because everything that emanates as our health starts at the cellular level of a body. And whether something is affected by a pathogen inside our body or by some emotional event that's happening outside our body, those things are there. Isolation, we hear that term fairly often. We never really kind of put ourselves in there. But sometimes, living in the country versus living in the city, living in a poor section of town, living in an area where schools are not, you have to take a bus a long ways to get to school. There are lots of parts of our environment where isolation becomes an issue. And so the environment that we're living in is a daily stressor on our body. That daily stress becomes something that can influence what it's called gene expression. We have genes, like a light switch. You turn it on, you turn it off. For good health, you turn it on. For bad health, you turn it off, literally speaking. And so factors turn on genes, they turn off genes. We talk about lifestyle choices, our diet, our exercise, our stress management, our sleep, those kinds of things. If they're done properly, they'll turn on the right genes or turn off the wrong genes. But if we're obese, we're stressed out, we got 2 or 3 diseases, this, that, and whatever, not getting good quality sleep, they can in fact depress our system such that our genes are turned the wrong way. And so we're looking at things that increase our inflammatory diseases. When I look at a disease, it starts literally 99% of them start at the cellular level of the body. Chronic low-level cellular inflammation leads to oxidative stress, leads to a lot of mutations and other things. So if we can control inflammation, we can control a lot of stuff going on in our health. And again, we're talking about stress. If it's chronic, it's long-term. It does affect the cellular levels of our body, not only the cells, but the pathways and many other chemicals that are produced. We look at the cellular response to stress, the damage that it causes the cell, but the pathway that cell communicates to other parts of the body. Now, last week we talked about the interpretation of stuff. The cell sending out a good signal, but the other end, for whatever reason, it's not receiving the same signal. And that becomes an issue, particularly in aging. As you get up there, that there's something either going wrong at the receiving end, the sending end, or the pathway. So damage can occur all 3 places. We have repair mechanisms that are going on all the time. Most of them are reversible. If we have a damage to a DNA, we have a damage to a protein, we have a damage to whatever aspect, our bodies are really, really good at repairing those things. But I need the right raw materials as part of the foods I eat. I also need good quality sleep, because that's where literally all our repair mechanisms are happening. We talked about isolationism. Well, you could be in a very good neighborhood, but have a lot of childhood trauma. There's just all different kinds of abuse. Now, I'm not talking about just sexual abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. Trauma happens from an abusive situation. Trauma happens from the environment that you live in, your friends, your enemies, whatever it may happen to be. And they're finding that sometimes that genetic predisposition actually gets passed down from one generation to another, not something you want. So chronic stress leads to an overdose in cortisol in the body. That cortisol affects our cells and our immune system. So if I'm looking at the whole interaction, I'm looking not only at the cellular, I'm looking at the emotional, I'm looking at the mental, I'm looking at my physical, and I'm looking at my social environment. So it's more than just the whole body in this particular case. And what happens is I end up with an altered state, whether it's my physical being or my mental capacity, my cognition, and I have some level of impairment that can happen. So once I get that impaired function, I'm no longer as healthy as I can be. There's an area of study called psychoneuroimmunology, where we're looking at the confluence of our nervous system, our immune system, and our mind. So you get into that area of the brain inside the blood-brain barrier, and you have all sorts of things going on in there. And if that gets out of kilter, we start looking at more of an impaired function in our cognition, our despair, our anxiety, our depression, lots of things that are there that we don't want to have as part of our overall healthy state. Continuing on, I have, what are some of the psychosocial stressors? Isolation, we talked about that. It lowers your morbidity, it lowers your mortality. Again, with the right lifestyle choices, and we saw that a couple of 3 weeks ago when I was talking about hallmarks of aging. Literally every hallmark of aging, the lifestyle choices you make with regard to exercise and diet and sleep and stress management and other factors, all have a cellular impact, positive or negative. And so our lifestyle choices influence this particular aspect of health, psychosocial adaptation. Our neurological resilience is altered, impaired. We talked about that getting in the brain. Things are out of kilter a little bit. So I look at lifestyle choices as a healthy place to start making changes. And we'll talk actually a lot more about it here in just a very brief moment. So what inhibits this adaptation, psychosocial adaptation? Well, low self-esteem, number one. Well, how do you know you even have low self-esteem? And that's an interesting question. I remember one of the first networking events I ever went to. I was blown away by the quality of people, their knowledge, their skills, everything that's going on. And I was introduced to a guy, and it seemed to be a really neat guy. And afterwards, the guy had left, and somebody made a comment, said, yeah, he'd really go a lot of places if he didn't have such low self-esteem. And I guess they knew him far better than I did at that time. But self-esteem is how we see ourselves. And if we don't see ourselves positively, that bleeds over. That becomes one of those internal stressors that just lingers, becomes chronic. So if I look at low self-esteem, high stress, and a social network that I have no control over, we end up with a lot of problems, social problems, physical problems, disability. And in some cases, those disabilities can become stigmas because the way that your friends are viewing you, that stigma could be literally almost anything. You end up with names that you don't even want to have. You end up with all sorts of things. So again, we're not looking at, the changes in the body at the cellular level, but that change is also right up here at that emotional, that mental area. So mental abuse increases, risk of disease increases. And then we have other things, restricted resources. What does that really mean? Access to healthcare, access to doctors, access to education, schools, access to protection, whether it be some level of police protection, access to the source libraries, access to resources that can make your life better. What enhances? In other words, what can I do to help myself get better? Well, essentially, start with self-perception. We talk about self-esteem. Self-perception. How are you really viewed? How do you view yourself? And if you're owning your own life, you have a certain locus of control. In other words, you physically can control what's going on in a small aspect of your life. Eventually, over time, you can expand that out. But you have emotional control. You know how to cope. And that's a big, big mechanism. Now, sometimes coping, grieving, all those things take much longer period of time to happen. The loss of a parent, the loss of a job, the loss of a sibling. I mean, lots of things happen in our life and we're coping. And it seems like almost all the times those things happen, it's always the worst possible situation. But you need social support from your family, from your friends. And in many cases, they're not available. They don't want to help you. Again, it is what it is. Accept it. Move on to something else. But education, optimism, engagement, taking action. Again, owning your own life. And those are things that enhance the psychosocial adaptation to improve your overall health. Let's jump into another one. Integrity of barriers. Okay, kind of strange one, integrity. Well, you have like the skin on your body. If the skin wasn't there, you'd have a lot of issues. You have a lining of your stomach, a lining of your intestines, a lining here. You have mucus linings in your nose. You got protective barriers for your eyes. You got protective barriers for your brain. You have a lot of barriers in your body, but when they're intact, they're undamaged, and they're functional, they're all separate. They run their own little area perfectly well. So these barriers can be physical, they can be biological, or they can be chemical. And we typically look at skin, mucous membranes, the blood-brain barrier, epithelial. Again, this is if you look at a hollow tube in the body like a blood vessel, you have both the inside and the outside of that vessel. And the epithelial are the coverings on inside and outside of internal vessels like that. They're there to prevent entry of pathogens. If you have a cut or a burn or some aspect of your body that's open to the world, pathogens can get in there very easily, or other harmful substances. What destroys them? Well, at the whole body level, lots of things. Pesticides, pollutants, toxins, trauma. At the cellular level, pathogens, your fungi, your viruses, your bacteria, stress, aging. Medications also can disrupt the integrity of the barrier of a cell. Chronic inflammation, very definitely, particularly with inflammation leading to oxidation. Sometimes the treatments that you're getting can be a problem. If you're getting a treatment that is destroying or penetrating a barrier, there's damage going on. X-ray, for instance, very definitely a treatment. Autoimmune issues, again, lifestyle, environment, and our internal biology are all intertwining, and the integrity of the barriers is super critical, because if you don't maintain that integrity, you're opening the door to future health problems. What can you do to support them? In reality, many, many things, and most of us are doing it without even realizing it. Proper nutrition, pH, that's whether your body is more alkaline or more acidic. If you're eating meat and carbs and fats and you're exercising, those all leave, and your metabolic processes, those all leave your body in an acidic overall environment inside. You take a piece of pH paper, you touch it to your tongue, and it's going to show you're less than 7.0. Fruits and vegetables, as a general rule, you eat those, your body's going to become alkaline. You touch it to your tongue, and it's going to be above 7.0. Your bloodstream runs around 7.4, give or take 0.05. And so if your body is acidic because of the food you choose or the activities that are going on, and you're not balancing it out with enough fruits and vegetables to get that alkaline environment, your body is going to leach calcium from your bones to balance the pH of the blood. So now your bones are getting less and less calcium. As you get older, there's less and less calcium. That's where you start getting your brittle bone and a lot of bone issues as an older adult. Hydration, something many of us overlook. Balanced microbiome, our gut. Stress management, quality sleep. Cholesterol is needed in every single cell of the body. It's one of those building blocks. You have to have it, yet we do everything in our power sometimes to avoid it. Antioxidants, the immune response we have, toxins, gut health. Gluten activates another hormone called zonulin, which controls our immune system in our body by opening up the lining of the gut to allow nutrients to pass through into the bloodstream. It goes through your immune system into your bloodstream. Well, the zonulin is growing out of control because you have a lot of gluten and you have a sensitivity to it. The holes become from microscopic to much larger, and now you're dumping a lot of waste in addition to nutrients into the bloodstream. A lot of problems happen. So you may have a sensitivity to gluten, you may have a sensitivity to casein, which is literally almost a mirror image of gluten, but it's from cheese and other dairy products. If you get your cheese and dairy from Europe, it's a different cow per se, and you don't have the same issues with casein from European animals that you do from American ones. Bouncing out of integrity of barriers, and we're making just rapid progress through here. What's called homeostatic resilience. Our ability to return to normal after something happens. The events of 2001, when the planes hit the Trade Center, a lot of shock and awe going on. A lot of people lost lives. A lot of people got health issues. Just all sorts of things. And that's a major trauma. COVID, another major trauma to our lives. But sometimes it's, again, I lost my job. I got a divorce. I'm retiring. My kids are moving out. My kids are moving back in. Lots of things change in our lives, in our environments. Do we have the ability to return to normal, whatever normal is in our lives after something happens? I have a fever. It goes away. My body fixes itself. It's gone. I have an injury. My body fixes itself. It's gone. Our body fixes things and we return to normal. And that's homeostatic resilience. So I have to maintain where I'm at, but I have to have the ability to return back to a stable and functioning level. So recovery from some kind of adversity. I want to be in a situation of not necessarily avoiding that adversity, but I want to have the ability to bounce back from that adversity. And that's the true hallmark of this particular aspect of a hallmark of health. So stress, we have that all the time, every day. And whether that stress is a chemical stress from a toxin, whether it's a stress from a mother-in-law, whether it's a stress from a doctor, the traffic on the way home, the news that I'm watching because of whatever's happening in the world, stress is out there. It's recognizing it for what it is. Okay, I understand. And letting it go. Too many times we reach out there, grab a hold of that stressor, and we don't let go. And over time, it's going to affect our health. We talk about awareness, education, and action. Well, when you have a stress going on, the first thing you want to do is get away from it. You know, if you just go click and you turn off the TV, okay, you're away from the stress. But there's still some residual stress going on here because of something you saw, heard, whatever. So if I'm aware that that's causing me stress and I'm educated, okay, fine, I need to have a program to de-stress on a regular basis. And I'm talking a couple, 3 times a day minimum. So I now am aware of it. I know what to do, and I actually take action to make that happen. Homeostatic resilience, HR. It can be biological. In other words, I may have an environment in my body, cold or hot, versus a fever. So in other words, my environment outside my body is cold and all I'm wearing is an undershirt, or it's hot and no matter what clothes I take off, I'm still overheated, versus a fever from, say, a virus. I have these things that are going on biologically because it's affecting my body in a biological response. So I have the maintenance. I want to get back to my regular body temperature, my regular body function, and the recovery. So what destroys or inhibits this particular homeostatic resilience function? Well, any kind of chronic stress. And that's this stress that we just never let go of. It's there. Mother-in-law, job, boss, coworker, the traffic I got to go through every single day. There's just so many things out there. You know, here we're in the summertime in Texas, July. You know, we're pushing, you know, not like it was 2 years ago when I think we had 80 days in a row over 100 here in Houston, a couple of days 110. You know, that's a stressor for some people. I love hot, flat, and humid. You know, give me as much as you can give me. Other people can't stand it above 80 degrees. I lived in New York City for a while, and it's amazing. It gets up to 82, 84, and they think it's a heat wave. Again, it's what we are brought up with. It's what we expect. It's what we live with. But chronic stress from the weather, from noise, from lots of things creates problems in our body at the cellular level that can create a health issue. Illness, disease, hormone imbalance, aging, pollution, toxins, all of these things are things that affect our life at the cellular level, that affect our risk of disease, that affect our overall health. And if I look at the lifestyle factors, you know, the diet and the exercise, the stress, sleep, if I'm not doing the right ones, if I'm not getting good quality sleep, if I'm not de-stressing, you know, if I'm eating the wrong kinds of foods, lots of things I can be doing because they're lifestyle choices. I'm just making the wrong choices. What about homeostatic resilience? And we look at the biological aspect of what degrades it. Well, we just talked about a lot of the lifestyle choices, poor quality sleep. There's some genetic factors, but all in all, you're looking at less than 10%, probably 5% in most genetic issues. Trauma can definitely be a problem from a biological perspective. That could be an injury. It could be a number of different things that happen. Mental trauma, emotional trauma, physical trauma. Extremes, maybe I'm outside and it's hot and I don't have water. I can't rehydrate. How long am I out there? How hot is it? What am I doing? How much am I sweating? I don't have the right resources. Maybe there's plenty of water, it's just not clean water. What can enhance this biological homeostatic resilience? Well, balanced nutrition. Getting that 30 or 35 nutrients the body needs every day. Getting the right exercise, the kind of exercise, and the length and duration of that exercise. The quality of sleep, the effectiveness of the stress management that you're doing. If I look at, again, from an enhancement perspective, I really want to concentrate from a cellular perspective on the mitochondrial health, because that helps not only the cell, the DNA, but that helps our entire cell provide the wherewithal to provide that beginning level of health. Our immune system integrity, which really and truly is based on how well functioning is our gut. Hormone enzyme balance, toxin exposure, sunlight exposure. Sometimes you get too little, sometimes you get too much. There's a nice range in there. Most of us have no idea in the world what that nice range is. Early life experiences, again, being abused as a child, being isolated, being just so many aspects of early life experience that we can't let go of them. In many cases, we may not even know how much they're affecting us, but they do affect us. We look at the neuroplasticity of the brain, the ability of the brain itself to remold, fix, and adapt back into some semblance of normalcy. Let's look at another aspect of homeostatic resilience, the psychological aspect. We're disappointed. Maybe I was planning on going a trip to Europe and I don't have the money, or this happened over here. I had to go. Things happen. We're disappointed. It doesn't matter the level of disappointment, major, minor, but we have lessons learned. Maybe we didn't learn the lesson we needed to. We did the same mistake over and over again. Can we really bounce back? Have we bounced back? These are all psychological things. Again, they're up here, and we have cellular issues going on, but it's the amount of things that, what can I really do? Can I reinvigorate my motivational sessions? Hang on one second. My inhibitors of the psychological function are things that really become a major problem. Trauma, prolonged stress, my coping mechanism. One second. Our dogs have guard duty. They sit at the window and watch the cul-de-sac. And obviously something happened out there and they're not willing to let it go. It's not a trauma, not a stress, but it's not good to have background noise like that here on live TV. So we have chronic prolonged stress, inability to cope. We are unable to manage our emotions, poor physical health. Lots of things are going on. That psychological world, I'm not going to say it's magic, but there are just so many things there. Sometimes it's a chemical. I may be depressed, but it could be lack of vitamin B. It could be lack of this. So there are certain biological things that have a physical, psychological end result in our lives. Really weird. What degrades our psychological capability? Well, our social networks, our connections, our interactions, sometimes are limited. Sometimes they're very negative. We talk about stress. If you can get out of the area of the stress, let's say it's the TV news, turn it off. That takes it. Traffic, you may not be able to get out of the traffic. Your boss, you may not be able to get away from your boss. Might be able to get away from a coworker. Mother-in-law might be able to get away from a mother-in-law, but you're not going to get away from your spouse. Lots of things that are there. So toxic relationships, isolationism, loneliness, substance abuse, poor diet, lack of exercise. And the more and more and more I read about exercise, I am just enamored by how effective it really is. It activates a lot of different health mechanisms in the body at the cellular level. Our inability to de-stress, sleep issues, neurochemical imbalance in the brain. So many of those that are available out there. Sugar, for instance, is one that really impacts the brain a lot. Genetic issues. From a psychological enhancement, strong social support, self-care. In other words, our ability to take our lifestyle choices and make the right ones and make them meaningful and effective for us. Do I have meaning and purpose in my life? Do I have mindfulness? Do I practice it? It's a form of stress management. No judgment. A lot of times we run into things and we make a judgment about something. And as such, that judgment affects ourselves, our brain, our ability, and whether we're listening, whether we're talking, it doesn't matter. It could be somebody you see on TV, somebody you know that just happened to bounce in there. But judgments are things that we make that really affect our lives. Cognitive flexibility. Sometimes we can reframe something. If I look at it, if I look at it this way, it's not so bad. Reframing, self-confidence, the ability to overcome that self-esteem. If we just take that extra 2 or 3 seconds to think before reacting, and try to balance that positive aspect of our environment with the negative. If I look at the social aspect of homeostatic resilience, social deviation equals stress. We're not normal. So we have certain set points. You could say something, do things, and and all of a sudden you pushed over the line. Something happened. Can you move those set points up or down, depending on which way they need to go? So I have physiological and behavioral responses that are based on a certain set point. And depending on where that set point is, I may end up having a normal response or a stressed response. And if I just took that extra few seconds before I commented on something, it's like, yeah, you can write a really nasty email, just don't send it to anyone, because now you've got it out of your system. Send it to yourself, destroy it, whatever, but don't put it out in the world. So it's a healthy balance to adapting to whatever situation you're in. I may not have the community and the resources that I need. In other words, my social networking is really restricted. It's incohesive. I have poverty. I have crime. I don't have access to healthcare. I don't have access to the right kind of education. There are a lot of barriers up there that become a problem. When I was in Bosnia, basically that you didn't have the parents. They were already gone. And so the grandparents were inculcating the kids with whatever those dirty people back in the year 506, they did this to our ancestors. Anyway, grandparents were very heavy influences on children. You end up with a lot of personal conflicts, no respect, gratitude, a lot of adversity out there. Just all sorts of things out there degrade our social ability for resilience. Misinformation, distrust. I talked earlier about news and politics. Some people, they look at guns, drugs. We have local leadership as all the way up to national leadership. Social media, the crisis decision making. Sometimes we don't need to do it under crisis. Isolation, social stigma. Sometimes it may be a disease, income, race, gender. Economic scarcity, conflict. In some cases, it's not doing something that should be done. If I want to enhance that particular aspect of homeostatic resilience, I want to look at more secure attachments, better social relationships, have a better sense of belonging. Comfort in the recovery from my adversity. Yeah, that's what it was, but I got over it. Really have better control over our emotions. And when I'm going through adversity, have a better positive mental outlook on things. A strong purpose of life and a good coping mechanism. and hopefully this is near the end. Yeah, I think it's the last slide. But we're looking at exercise, cognitive reappraisal. In other words, let's relook at things, reframe, relaxation. There's many neurological factors in there with regard to distance and DHA, omega-3, but there are oxytocin. There are things in there that, yes, we can use as supplements, but it's active coping versus avoidance. Humor is a very great one. And this is the last slide. So we're looking at this thing from many complex levels, from the cellular to the physical to the mental, a lot of emotional interplay with others, with our community, a healthy lifestyle choices, the recognition, the coping, and a big thing, our emotional health and our strong, healthy relationships. And I believe that is the last slide. Yes, it is. A little bit over, sorry about that. And we will catch you all next week. Red O'Laughlin out.
We face daily cyber risks, spending over 7 hours of screen time, including 4.5 hours on mobile phones. This convenience comes with significant dangers, with cybercrime costs predicted to exceed $10.5 trillion by 2025. In 2023 alone, seniors lost over $3.4 billion to cybercrime. Our goal is to make social engineering concepts of cybersecurity easier to understand. We work with business teams, senior living facilities, investment companies, and educational institutions, both individually and in groups. We offer real-life examples to help you recognize and prevent attacks, with sessions available both in person, in selected regions, and remotely. Schedule your training session, or to learn more, contact us today. Call us at 847-845-9360. Email us at info@cybersecurityeasy.com. Protect your team and family with cybersecurityeasy.com.
Meet Red O'Laughlin, TV show host, presenter, and author.
Howdy y'all, Red O'Laughlin here. I'm a TV host on the USA Global TV and Radio Network.
Red has 3 weekly shows every Thursday.
I've been a TV host now with USA Global probably maybe just a little over 3 years. Probably, I know for sure, 250, 300 shows.
Join Red on the Corner Bookstore.
The Corner Bookstore is one where we talk to authors, publicists, publishers, editors, cover designers, anybody associated with the writing and authoring book production business. You have somebody in that area, I can help you with regard to getting your book done, getting it published, working with you on a cover. A lot of things I can help people with, and I have probably maybe published over 40 books for people so far.
Join Red on The Wise Ones.
On the Wise Ones, I'm looking for entrepreneurs, business owners, people who have wisdom, lessons learned over time that they can share with others. So please go to usaglobaltv.com, sign up, and join me there.
Book your session on usaglobaltv.com. Join Red on Talking Heads.
On Talking Heads, I take my experience. I fell in love with chemistry many years ago, got a degree in it, got an invitation to Vietnam, never practiced chemistry per se, but I did get a chance when my wife was going through chemo to get back into the chemical end of things. I started looking for cause and effect relationships. I had been working at a company doing cause and effect analysis on failures in the field on various products that we made. So I said, why not look at the cellular structure in the body? The chemicals are chemicals, they do certain things. So I take my knowledge of chemistry and research, I write about it, I speak about it. I have over 1,000 original content articles on LinkedIn, most of them dealing with some aspect of health or wellness. I speak on that topic quite often, and the Talking Head Show is one that I concentrate my knowledge of health and wellness on in order to help people.
Red is a distinguished Toastmaster.
As a distinguished Toastmaster, I help people get their speeches developed. The presentation is something that I critique all the time with Toastmasters. It's one of those skills that I have. I can easily help you on that one. So from the position of writing, publishing, book coach, speaking, and being a keynote speaker at an event or virtually, depending on how things work out. But those are the things that I can help people with. And I have 3 shows every week here on the USA Global TV and Network. And please join me when you can. Appreciate it. Bye now.
Here are some of the books that Red has written and published. Contact Red at red.olaughlin.com.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.